Hey guys, welcome to the Rusty Beauty's Garage and to the third episode of rewiring this TR3A. I still don't know what year it is. Well, now it is 2024. I mean, what year the car is. So, in the first episode, we removed the original wiring harness. I'm not gonna go through the reasoning why. And we removed some of the components that were not needed anymore, like wiring for the overdrive, because this car doesn't have overdrive anymore. It was converted to 5-speed Toyota transmission. There was also some wiring for electrical fan, which we're gonna keep, but we're gonna wire it in different ways. So we removed the relays for that and some other components. And we installed this block on the firewall. This is the advanced auto-wire aftermarket wiring harness, which contains lots of fuses and relays for the circuits that were not in the original design of the wiring harness in like 60 years ago. In the second episode, we ran all the wires to their designated location. For example, these here come out from the block, they go inside, and then they come back out, and they're gonna be connected here to the starter solenoid. These here are for the brake switch down there, brake light switch, which is deep down there. These are for the right headlight and signal and even the electric fan, which we have the wires for here. These are pretty much the same, but going to the left side of the headlights. And also, because this is a TR3 and it has here the signal switch on the steering column, the wires from this switch go through the entire steering column and come out somewhere down there, and the end of the harness is here somewhere. So some of these wires are connected to that switch and for the horn button actually. Here inside we have wires for the heater, fan, rheostat. We have these for the dip switch there, for the high beam, low beam switch. We also have the white one that needs to go through the firewall to the ignition coil, and we have two wires for the windshield wiper motor, which again needs to go through the firewall here. Here we have these here are for hazard switch, which this car doesn't have hazard, but this block has a provision for one, so why don't we use it? We're gonna have hazards on this car. These are for the parking lights, front and rear. All these here are for the gauges and switches that are here in the center. All these, this is this harness here, so it goes underneath and it comes here. We're gonna fish it through. That's for the tail lights and the gas tank, the sender unit, and that's it. So that's what we've done so far in the previous two episodes. So in this episode, we're gonna finish it. Okay, so here's the plan. I have here two different types of tape. One is electrical tape, which I'm gonna take now, and I'm gonna start going around and just pinching every once in a while all the wires into groups, so we can dedicate the length, because I don't want to cut a wire, terminate it, plug it in somewhere, and then turn out that it was taking a shortcut somewhere and now it is shorter than all the other wires, you know. So I'm going to start from the board, going into different directions and grouping those with electrical tape. Just a little bit pinch here, 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 you know what I mean. And once everything is grouped almost to its designated location, then I'm gonna start terminating stuff and plugging it in wherever it belongs and all that. And then once everything is plugged in, we're gonna test everything to make sure that everything works, and then we're gonna disconnect one more time everything, and we're gonna pull the harness out to wherever we can, and we're gonna wrap everything in this tape, which is pretty good. I wrapped here already this part of the harness and it works fantastic. That's what we're gonna use to wrap it, but we're gonna hold on with this until the end. For now, I'm gonna go around with this one. So without further ado, let's get crack-a-lacking. Well, you're right, I'm forgetting something. How are we gonna charge this battery? We have an alternator deep down there that we don't have provisions for. Somehow I was looking at the schematic and I missed the whole entire corner here. We still need to run more wires. We need this brown with yellow and this yellow wire. The manual here is talking about a GM alternator, and the schematic is for a GM alternator because, as you know, originally the TR3 has a generator. I actually like much more the TR6 alternators when I convert TR3 to alternator, and that's what we have here. So for that we have a plug which has 3 prongs. It has 2 big ones and 1 small one. The smaller one is the field wire, and the 2 big ones are both outputs. They are virtually the same thing. However, they have these spade connectors that are, I don't know, for me they look like really flimsy. It looks like a fuse to me. Looks like if I put a little bit more load on it, it's gonna just burn. So that's why, even though you would need only one of the big terminals and the small one, which is the field wire, I like to use both terminals, just in case, and I don't just crimp them because this is so flimsy. When you crimp it, it's like nothing. So I solder them. I crimp it and then solder it. So I soldered these 2 to use in the big holes, and I also soldered this one for the small terminal here. So now we're gonna put the plug together and we're gonna create another harness which we're gonna plug into the alternator, and then the small wire, the brown with yellow, is gonna go inside in the center cluster where the ignition warning lamp is, and then the yellow one is gonna go back to the solenoid with this wire that powers up the blocks. Okay, so the alternator now is plugged in and the wire goes down underneath, and I wrapped this harness already to the part where it joins the main harness, and then it goes this way and comes here. 2 wires, they're gonna go on the same terminal on the solenoid, and then the brown with yellow continues inside and joins this harness here that comes to the cluster. So now we have the brown with yellow here as well. And I think the only wires that we are still missing are the illuminations for the dash. So here on the old harness we have all these, and this is a whole entire string of wires that was barely holding here because it came loose. So this is this little wire. It literally, come on, focus. It literally snapped from here. So I don't even know if they were working or not, but now we're gonna make them work. So this is the illuminations for the speedometer and tachometer. We also have some more here. I guess this is the signal maybe. The other one is the alternator warning light. Then we have some more illumination lights here that I guess were for some of these gauges here. And we also have the blue with white. Where did it go? Oh, it's here. This is the high beam light on the speedometer. So we're gonna have to cut these from here and use them again with the new harness. Okay, I was getting a little bit confused here with the illumination lights because as far as I know we need 6, but here we have 7, which this one was included there. But I figured it out. I forgot that David mentioned that this car doesn't have ammeter, it has a voltmeter. So the old gauges, the old 4 gauges, they get illuminated through the side here, you see? They have 2 central lights in the back of this panel, right here in these 2 holes, and they illuminate all 4 gauges. But because the ammeter was replaced with the voltmeter, somebody added this light there. Okay, so I soldered a new wire here for the string that illuminates the tachometer and the speedometer, and we have a long wire that is going to connect to the rheostat on the center cluster, and then this is the other string that we're also going to connect to the rheostat, And the other end is this light that I said it goes for the voltmeter, but I noticed that it's not even the correct fixture for here. Look. So how they had it was pushed in, and then on top with this is what was holding it in place, but that doesn't make good contact. So I have a harness downstairs in the basement from David Tushingham, an old harness. I found the correct fixture for here, so that's what we're gonna solder there. Okay, at this point I decided to do some non-electrical jobs. Do you remember this vinyl here that wasn't fitting very well with the panel, and the panel that needed to be painted? So I decided to take care of that. Okay, I was able, I think, to pull this a little bit further in. Unfortunately, it was cut a little bit too far, and not much that I can do, but I was able to pull it a little bit more. So hopefully the panel is gonna cover it. The panel also got painted. There were a few bad areas here because somebody drilled a hole here before and then it got welded. So we put a little bit of body filler, then we sanded it nicely and we sprayed it twice with this Pit Crew automotive coatings, blah blah blah. It's supposedly wrinkle paint. So it said to spray 2 even coats 3 minutes apart and then let it dry for 12 hours. So let's see what's gonna happen. But in the meantime, we can start wiring. Okay, everything is grouped now and it looks much better, right? And everything is ready to be connected. But now, to be connected, I need to cut it to the correct length, right? So for this reason, I'm gonna take now this tape, and at least the rear harness, I'm gonna start taping it from here so I can actually bury it where it belongs, under the carpet and all that. So I'm gonna wrap it all the way to here, at least to where it comes out in this location, and then we're gonna leave the rest to wrap later after we terminate everything. Here I fished the white wire that is for the coil, then the other 2 wires that go for the wiper motor, these are for the dip switch. Well, this is gonna go above actually the steering column and this cable, not here, close to the pedal. So anyway, that I can do later, but first I'm gonna do the rear harness so I can bury it where it belongs. Okay, so this branch here is wrapped. Look at this. I really love this tape. I bought a 5-pack for my GT6 when the time comes, and I've never tried it. It was like a year ago, so now I was talking to Dave, the owner of this car, and he was asking me what to buy, and I said, well, I like this tape, it looks good, but I've never tried it. So now we're trying it on his car and it actually works great. Okay, so now I can fish this through and then we're gonna start working there, I guess. Maybe I should start with here with the solenoid, because that's where the wires are gonna be, because it's important to know how long to cut the wires before we install connectors. So we should start laying the harness down where we want it and then cut these wires long enough to plug wherever they're gonna be plugged. Then again continue laying it down flat where we want it to be, then cut the next and the next one and the next one, and that's how we should go all the way there. So I'm not gonna hold you here for all of that, but I'm gonna be explaining things step by step and then doing them, I guess. So here on the solenoid we have these 2 wires that come from the board. The big yellow one is the main power that feeds everything in the car that requires power. The other one comes from the push start button, so that needs to be hooked up here to this little terminal, and when the button is pushed we have power here, and the solenoid clicks and connects the two big terminals together, which sends power to the starter motor down there and starts cranking it. And the other two come from the alternator. As we explained already, they are both doing the exact same thing. I just used both terminals on the alternator that do the same thing. So they both gonna have ring connector and gonna be hooked up here to the top. Or maybe one we can plug in here, but I don't have such a big connector. Now we're gonna put ring terminals on them, and we're gonna put them at the top here. Okay, so this junction is done here. We have 4 wires on one terminal, which I believe is the limit. You can't do more than 4. And I laid the rest of the harness flat here down, and now next I cut these 2 wires to length so they can be plugged into the brake switch down there. So we're gonna use the original style bullets, and we have here, they've provided 3 different types of bullet. Actually there is more there on the table, but we're gonna start with these, and these are pretty much the same but for different wire. 314 is for 14 strand wire, 309 is for 9 strand wire, and 328 is for 28. Anyway, we're gonna use these, and usually I prefer to solder bullets because I have bad experience with bullets pulling out of the wires, but this time actually they've bought the proper tool for that, so I think we should try that. Also the manual says it is pricey at around 50 bucks, but it is nice. I have one and I will never solder bullets again. See photo on page 8, which is this photo. So okay, let's try it. Okay, so there's this part here at the back, so apparently that's how I need to crimp it, like this. I guess that's the difference in the hole inside for the wires. Just making sure that the wires go almost to the front here. Okay, apparently they're not coming out. Okay, so these are good there. So now let's figure out this mess here. We have lots of wires to deal with. Okay, I know that we explained each and every wire when we ran the wires to the places where we knew that they were gonna be, but we're gonna explain them once again before we hook up everything. So here we have wires that are for the right headlight, signal, etc. And these are all for the left side, but some of them also have a task to do here before they go that way. So we have high beam and low beam for the right side, we have signal, and this is the power for the electric fan. So all these wires terminate on this side. These though, let's figure out. So again, we have high beam and low beam for that side, so these go directly there. Black with green is for the thermal switch here on the radiator that turns on and off our fan. Black with red and red with black are for the turn signals, so they pick up the signal from the end of the steering column where the wires from the signal switch come. So we need the light green with brown to send power to the switch, and then depending of whether we have left signal or right signal turned on, we have power on the black with red or the red with black. So they go straight to the other side. Green with red is for the left turn signal for the lights there. Purple with black connects to, again at the end of the steering column, connects to the horn button on the steering wheel. So that goes straight there. And then we're left with these two. Purple with yellow is for the horns, so this one we need to splice off for this horn as well. And red is for the marker lights or parking lights. So this as well needs to be spliced, so we can go in this direction first and then in that direction. So I'm gonna pull only these two wires, and all the rest need to go directly to the other side. We're gonna deal with them later there. So, all right, so this is what we've done here. The headlight is connected, blue with white, blue with white, blue with red to blue with red, and the headlight also has a ground down there from before, right? So this goes down towards the headlight. Here we have the signal, green with white, connected, and we have the red, which was the marker light, remember? So it goes into this double connector here. So from here it continues down to the marker and signal light, and one wire comes back and goes in that direction for the other side. Same with the horn. The purple with yellow goes and powers up the horn here, and one wire comes back and goes to power up the other horn. Also the yellow with brown here, that's for the fan, so it hooks up to the black on the fan here, and that's for directional purposes on the fan. And the blue one that comes back from the fan is its ground that is hooked up here. Later we're gonna also see if we can wrap these in something to make them look nice as they go down towards the fan, but I think this side is pretty good like that. And now these we're gonna just tuck under here, and we're gonna see how we're gonna hold them there. Here I use the zip tie to hold it behind like that, but we're gonna have to do the same somehow in that direction. Now all of these wires except one need to go to the other side. The only one that doesn't go that way is the black with green, which needs to leave the harness here and go and hook up to the temperature switch. And what I forgot was a black wire for ground for the temperature switch. So we're gonna run a black wire from here that way to hook up somewhere for ground. Okay, it's the next day, and I showed you that side yesterday. Today I was able to connect also this side. So you see, again, I don't know if I should explain it one more time. Okay, just one more time. Blue with white and blue with red for the headlight, and there's also from the same harness, this black one is going to ground, that's for the headlight. The red and the green with red are for the other light here, for this one, which I believe is parking light and signal. Purple with yellow is for the horn over there, and the horn is also grounded here. And then the other four wires here are for the signal switch on the steering column and the horn button. Green with brown connects to green with blue here, that's power to the signal switch. And green with red, which is pretty faded, but this is the green with red, the other one is the green with white. They connect to the black with red and the red with black. This goes back all the way to the hazard switch, and from there the other ones, the green with red and green with white, coming back for the two signals. One of them is here, green with red, and the other one is there. And the black is another ground that I run here for the switch on the radiator. So now we have two wires for this switch that I have to hook up there, but everything here is hooked up, and we're gonna see how we're gonna hide this somehow. There's nothing to hook it up there too, so maybe we're gonna remove one of these bolts and we're gonna put a hook on it or something, and we're gonna put it back, but we need to figure out how to hold this harness up inside the valance. And here we only have to do later the wiper motor and the ignition coil. This is the power for the ignition coil. So I'll do that later, but first I'm gonna come back here because this experiment here didn't work very well. Like last night I was looking at it and it started to wrinkle, but it didn't wrinkle in all the areas. So I guess it didn't have enough heat. It wasn't cold here in the garage, it was like 17 degrees Celsius, but it didn't wrinkle a lot. So I took it inside at the end of the day, inside the house, and it wrinkled a little bit more overnight, but still not enough. So I did some research, and people apparently are doing a heat gun as soon as they spray it, actually, right after they spray it, the second coat, they do heat gun, and apparently the wrinkling happens in front of their eyes. So I think it's too late now to wrinkle it, but I'm gonna do an experiment with a heat gun. Let's see if it is gonna work, and if it doesn't, then we're gonna have to strip it again and do it one more time, and this time we're gonna hit it with the heat gun right away, and we'll see if that's gonna work. From a long distance, not too hot, so I'm aiming here right now. Okay, that didn't work. So I'm gonna sand it. Plus, even if it worked, it's not great, especially here. I don't know if you see. You see, this is where these spot welds are. You can clearly see them. And here as well, where I put the body filler, it wrinkled differently. It wrinkled here yesterday, but wrinkled differently. So I'm debating whether to sand it now or just put another coat. Yeah, I'm gonna sand it. I'm gonna wait for it to cool down, and I'm gonna sand it with the orbital sander, and we're gonna try that again. Okay, the previous time I didn't use primer because the instructions here didn't say anything about primer. Surface must be clean, dry and free of rust before painting. Surrounding areas from spray. For best results, use when can is between 50 and 90 Fahrenheit or 10 and 32 Celsius. So I'm gonna warm this up again because it sat here overnight, and in the garage the temperature was 8-9 degrees Celsius. So I'm gonna warm up the spray, but this time I'm gonna use primer first. Clean this with acetone a little bit, because where we had body filler, it wrinkled differently. So I wanna have even surface everywhere, the same material underneath. I'm gonna spray another one soon. You can already see that here we had not good results, but let me heat it up. Actually, I can see it happening right here. Okay. It's actually working pretty well. The problem is these areas here. You can see it actually worked pretty well in these areas here, but here for whatever reason didn't work well. And here it didn't wrinkle a lot, here over wrinkled. I think here it reacted with the primer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait for it to cool down, and I'm gonna sand it, but this time not with the sander. I'm gonna just sand it by hand to make it pretty much even without removing lots of material. And we're gonna do one or maybe two more coats. If it doesn't work, then we're gonna strip it again, but I just don't want to strip it completely because these areas here are not working well. Here where the spot welds were, actually they disappeared, so that's good. Okay, it's about an hour later and I think it is dry enough so we can sand it. Let's see. Feels like rubber though. I don't know if we can sand that. That ruined it even more. I mean, not even more, but you see, kind of worked in this area with few little dots, but here it's horrible. Here it is horrible. So at this point, we're stripping it again to bare metal. One more time. All right, one more time. This time we're gonna spray primer everywhere. We're gonna put 2 coats of primer and we're gonna let it dry nicely so we don't have different texture where the body filler is. You know what I mean? Okay, 3 minutes later, let's do another coat and then we're gonna hit it with the heat gun right away. Well, probably I'm gonna speed it up for the video, but the whole process, judging by the length of the previous clip that I shot, was 7.5 minutes, and the previous clip was from when I came to do the second coat and then started with the heat gun. So it's probably 6 minutes of heating it up with the gun, and apparently it requires a lot of heat. I was afraid to come too close with the heat gun, but I have it on the high setting and I came pretty close at some point to warm it up enough. So I think it is good enough now. I mean, the texture is pretty even everywhere, or it looks like here at the ends it's a little bit bigger grains or whatever you want to call this, and here as well, and smaller in the center, but I don't know. I think that's where we should leave it. Some people say after it wrinkles you can spray another coat and do it one more time. I don't want to risk it. It's the third time, so with the third time we got lucky, and I think we should leave it alone now. I'm just gonna bring it inside the house where it's about 21-22 degrees Celsius, because here in the garage it's not that hot. It's about 15-16 right now. So I'm gonna take it inside. I'm gonna leave it for another few hours to dry, and in the meantime we're gonna continue with the car. Finally I can call this done. Okay, and back to our wiring. I terminated this white wire and plugged it into the coil and wired the wiper motor. Before, the original harness had a ground that was going this way and hooking up here, but now I connected it inside the car and it's coming out together with these wires, which we're gonna hook up somehow like this, I guess, at some point. So it's I think it's better, instead of having wires coming from one direction and then from another. This way they all come from here. Wow, this terminal is loose. Okay, we're gonna connect that. Okay, we're gonna have to tighten this. So now we are into the internal wiring. So let's see what we're gonna do here. Well, I know that in the beginning of this video I said that this is gonna be the third and last episode of this series, but it turned out that there's so much wiring. I was expecting to get everything done in 20 hours. I went over 30. So anyway, as you can see, the car is gone now, but I'm editing the video now, Oh my god, a huge spider behind you, watch out. Anyway, I'm gonna leave the rest of the footage for another video in which we're gonna finish it. So I don't know, am I showing way too much detail? I'm sure that it's boring for some people, but I'm sure that if you are doing this job, you would want me to show even more detail. So I don't know. There must be a balance somewhere in the middle. So anyway, that's where we're gonna end it, and we're gonna continue in the next episode. So thank you guys for watching, commenting, subscribing, sharing, and supporting me. It is really appreciated. Your financial support is what helps this channel continue going, because to be honest, I'm so busy lately with projects. I can use a little bit more hours in the garage, but I have to spend quite a few hours in the office too, editing videos. So without your support, I'm probably not gonna do so much editing and not gonna post so much videos. So that's really appreciated. But also, if you're not subscribed and you like my videos, please consider subscribing down there. That gives you notifications every time I post a new video, but also it helps me with the algorithm of YouTube. The more subscribers somebody has, the the more likely it is that his videos are gonna be shown to other people, and the more people watch the videos, the better for me, because I get some revenue from YouTube. So it is, you're doing me a favor if you just subscribe, or even you share in your local groups and with your local clubs and stuff like that. So thank you for all of that as well. Anyways, that's everything for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.